Coming up on Look Today, well, a Veterans and Community Housing Coalition announced that they will be the recipient of a $180,000 grant. I've got details. And the Hadley Luzerne School District adopts a $20 million budget. More on that coming up. Plus, the Adirondack Museum in Blue Mountain Lake announces a name change. I've got those details. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone, I'm Jay Hood Jackson, and this is Look Today. On tonight's program, I sit down with David Saffer. He's Executive Director of the Council for Prevention, Warren and Washington Counties. And we're joined by Joseph San Antonio. He's the Challenge Program Supervisor, and they're here to discuss a new, upcoming, 4-month program to help those who battle with opioid addiction. I also sit down with Lois Celeste. She's the Executive Director of the Saratoga Senior Center, and we're joined by Michelle Del Signor. She's Administration's Coordinator for the Washington Center for Rehabilitation through Center's healthcare system. Now, they're here to discuss access to healthcare as we get older in another edition of A Look at Seniors. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties. But first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, the Veterans and Community Housing Coalition announced that they will be the recipient of a $180,000 grant from the IUE/CWA Union. Now, the funds were awarded for the Cure a He apartment program. This program supplies a permanent home for 8 formerly homeless veterans and 4 veterans with families. Now, the grant will be used for repairs to the complex, which are desperately needed. Well, we spoke to Cheryl Hage Perez. She's Executive Director, about how the community can get involved.
We can always use volunteers, especially around now, because on all our properties we have spring cleanup, and that's always a big chore. So volunteers are always welcome.
Cheryl, as you know, runs a very important organization. In other news, we have continuing coverage of our look at education. The Hadley Luzerne School District has adopted a $20 million budget. Now, residents of the district will get to vote on May 16 about how that money will be spent. Now, this, by the way, is a 2.13% increase from last year's budget. Well, we spoke to Beecher Baker. He's a superintendent of the Lake Luzerne School District about the budget.
You know, we certainly know that we have a variety of senior citizens who are on fixed budgets. We have individuals who certainly can't afford to have their taxes go up in a tremendous amount each year. So we've tried to keep that limited. We've always, since the tax cap was implemented, we've tried to ensure that we go either underneath or right at that cap every time. So we're always shooting for that. We understand that we want as much as we can for our kids, but we have to do it with limitations.
Now, some of the key programs which will be enhanced by the budget include more extensive health curriculum and an intramural sports program. Now, the proposed budget will allow the school to hire a new health specialist with a focus on opioid epidemic education. And we spoke to Beecher about this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the positions, a key position for us, is a physical education health teacher this year. We're trying to implement some new things into our health curriculum and into our phys ed curriculum. Specifically on the health side, we're looking at the opioid epidemic that's in all of our communities, and we're trying to ensure that we educate our kids as best we can. So we certainly want someone who's going to bring about that education for our kids and inform them of the risks that are out there. So our health curriculum is going to be revamped, and we're going to bring in a new person to assist us doing so.
Let's face it, it always starts with education. Now, later on in the program, I sit down with the Council for Prevention for a more in-depth discussion on the opioid epidemic. All right, switching from news to weather. Well, today saw increased winds, temperatures in the 50s. Let's see how the rest of the week is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, let's head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast.
Thank you, Jesse. Forecast right now continues to look a little bit more mild over the coming days as we're watching a warm front and the southerly flow that's both ahead of it and back behind it pushing in place. So pretty dry air mass in place right now as this high cruises off to our north. We'll start to see that change as the warm front pushes on in, and then this cold front could bring some more wet weather across much of the U.S. over the coming days. But for us right now, not even looking too cold. Still chilly in a few spots, but generally across the northeast, we'll see temperatures dropping back down in the upper 30s, around 40 in Albany, 41 in Scranton. A bit more mild as that warmer air starts to push in towards D.C. and Pittsburgh, both those spots with lows in the upper 40s. About 10 degrees cooler than that here across much of the Glens Falls area. We're going to see broken cloud cover, still the north wind, and a low down to 38 degrees through the daytime tomorrow. Here comes that southerly flow. Could see a few isolated showers as the warm front approaches. Highs warm back up into the 50s. As we take a look at the extended forecast through the early morning hours, we'll see mostly cloudy skies, winds picking up out the door, temperatures between 40 and 43. Then we'll start to see those showers really holding off through most of the daytime Wednesday and becoming a little bit more prevalent Thursday and Friday with that cold front right on the heels of the warm front. We're going to see that southerly flow start to get out of the picture by the end of the weekend, and we'll see that clear out occurring and also a bit of a cool down on Saturday and Sunday. Both days expected to see highs in the upper 50s. Well, that's it from the First Look Weather Center. Now let's get back to you, Jesse.
Thanks, Brian. And back to the news, and big news it is. The Adirondack Museum in Blue Mountain Lake has announced that it will change its name to the Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake. Now, the museum will open for its 60th anniversary on May 26, and these updates are a product of several years of careful consideration and planning. Well, the museum will maintain the same full collection and still offer the same range of programs that define the Adirondacks. Up next, I sit down with David Saffer. He's Executive Director of the Council for Prevention, Warren and Washington Counties. And we're joined by Joseph San Antonio. He's a Challenge Program Supervisor, and they're here to discuss a new upcoming 4-month program to help those battle with their opioid addiction. Plus, I also sit down with Lois Celeste. She's Executive Director of the Saratoga Senior Center. We're joined by Michelle Del Signor. She's the administration's coordinator for the Washington Center for Rehabilitation through Center's healthcare system. Now, they're here to discuss access to healthcare as we get older in another edition of A Look at Seniors. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea. How about join us for an interview? Then give us a call. The hotline number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. I got a bunch of lookouts, so I'm going to move right through these. If you're catching an early broadcast, a reminder that tonight at Cafe Lena in Saratoga is the Rockman Record Club, and the album is none other than Jethro Tull's Aqualung. Also, I want to give a look out to the Council for Prevention in this opioid diversion program. The two guys that were on today for the interview are really dedicated to finding an alternative to incarceration. And let's face it, addiction is not really criminal activity. It's something that can be cured and something that needs to be embraced. And toward that end, when we were up at Lake Luzerne today and spoke to Beecher about the school and their programs, we've got a follow-up on that story tomorrow about what that school district is doing to help fight the opioid epidemic. Tonight is a brand new Queensbury Town Board meeting. Don't forget that. And last but not least, my wife and I and our good friends Bob and Lorraine, our best friends, went to a great restaurant in Glens Falls called Rocco's. This is a come-as-you-are place with great Italian food and a very funky environment. Yeah, I think it's 132 Glen Street, so it's on the southern side of the circle on the west side. Rocco's. And a lookout goes to Tina, who was our waitress, who was just fantastic. All right, everybody. Like I said, tonight is a Queensbury Town Board meeting, a brand new one. And don't forget, tune in tomorrow night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.